Syrian rebels are moving closer to the capital Damascus after taking control of the strategic city of Hama. The Syrian army says rebel forces killed many soldiers and forced troops to flee the city for the first time since the start of the country's war in 2011. Sama Al-Trush is the Times Middle East correspondent, is with us now. Morning, Sama.
Good morning.
What's the significance of taking Hama?
Well, it's quite significant strategically and symbolically for the rebels. Strategically, it brings them closer to Damascus, and it's roughly 200 kilometers north of Damascus. So the remaining city now between the rebels and the capital is Homs, and we're seeing already thousands of people, particularly from the Alawi minority to which President Bashar al-Assad belongs. They're fleeing Homs now to the coastal areas because I think the rebels have achieved a momentum that they never did at the height of the civil war, really, when they took parts of Aleppo only. In the last decade, they seized Idlib, which is still their stronghold. So this is the first time they've actually managed to take control of Hama, and it's something that I think wasn't previously imaginable. If you just someone suggested that this was a possibility a week ago, I think they would have been laughed out of the room. Symbolically, Hama is also the site of it's the site of a 1982 Muslim Brotherhood-led uprising, which was quashed by Bashar al-Assad's father, Hafiz, and it became, an everlasting symbol of often Islamist-led opposition to the Syrian regime and the regime's tactics against it. So symbolically and strategically, it's a big deal for the Syrian opposition.
Sammy, your line is slightly dropping in and out, but I do want to ask you. As you point out, the rebels are taking territory at pace, yet we do hear that there are more Russian airstrikes. Troops have come over from Iraq, more Syrian government troops. Why are they not able to stop the advance?
Well, it's a very good question. There have been Russian and Syrian Air Force airstrikes conducted against the rebels. They've killed dozens of people, hundreds of rebels. They haven't really had much success. I mean, what the rebels seem to be doing, they're just inundating the front lines with more and more fighters. In the past, Bashar al-Assad was able to regain territory with Russian boots on the ground, Iranian boots on the ground, and most importantly, Hezbollah boots on the ground, Hezbollah in Lebanon. His army alone isn't really a match for the opposition forces. It never has really been much of a match for them, and they're mainly on their own right now. We are hearing about reinforcements coming from Iraq. Hezbollah so far has not sent reinforcements. They have said that they will support Assad, but they are, I think, in no hurry to send their own troops over from Lebanon to Syria. So air power alone, it really can achieve. It can be decisive in this type of war. We're talking about people sweeping down on a highway and overwhelming a city. Airstrikes can kill a lot of rebels. They can kill a lot of the opposition members, but
I'm going to jump in there because that line is unfortunately letting us down, but I think we got the sense of what Sama was saying to us. That's Sama Al-Trush, the Times Middle East correspondent. I feel like technology is slightly letting us down this morning.
Syrian rebels released this footage on Thursday, purporting to show a captured government military site near the city of Hama. Reuters was able to verify the location, but not the date. Rebels said they'd ousted the Syrian military from Hama, their latest victory in a lightning advance across the country's north. The Syrian army said it had redeployed outside the city in what it called an effort to, quote, preserve civilians' lives and prevent urban combat. It's a significant blow to President Bashar Assad. The capture of Hama comes days after rebels took the main northern city of Aleppo and have since pushed south from their enclave in northwest Syria. One of the key rebel commanders goes by the nom de guerre Abu Muhammad al-Golani. This week, Golani visited Aleppo's historic citadel in a moment of symbolic victory. Rebels were driven from the city after a brutal siege in 2016. Golani had previously led the Syrian branch of the al-Qaeda Islamist group, but now calls his militia Hayat Tahrir ash-Sham, or HTS. The group has been designated a terrorist outfit by Turkey, the United States, Russia, and other countries. Golani's rebranding appears aimed to de-emphasize the hard-line Sunni element of his past in the fight for a country made up of different religious and ethnic minorities. Golani has pledged to protect Syria's religious minorities and has called on them to abandon Assad. But many remain fearful of the insurgents. Shafiqa Saida and her husband Mohammed Nasro are part of Syria's Yazidi minority who fled Aleppo as the rebels approached. They are living in tents outside the city of Tabqa, desperate for food. Saida said she implored her husband to flee.
They said that the Free Syrian Army would enter the area. We were afraid because there were women with us. We were afraid that they would kidnap them from us. My husband said we will stay in the area and not go out. So my eyes teared up and I cried. I told him, "How will you leave me with these women here?" But I convinced him.
Rebels in Hama said they were preparing to keep marching south toward Homs, Syria's great crossroads city that links the capital, Damascus, to the north and coast.
Essentials like bread were in short supply in Aleppo in the days after Islamist rebels took control of the northwestern Syrian city from government forces. Reuters visited Aleppo Wednesday and spoke to locals lining up for food and fuel. While a week on, some services are back, including some set up by the rebels. Ahmed Hamdan said some people were not able to get bread at all.
In terms of the bread situation, this is a very, very big crisis. People in their hundreds are at the bakeries. Some people can get bread, and others not at this time. The bread situation, some good people gave us bread. Getting bread has become a struggle.
The insurgents, led by the group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, are trying to show Syrians and the West that they are a viable alternative to President Bashar al-Assad. They've set up several services like traffic control and lifted a curfew. However, gas remains in short supply. One motorist complained prices were too high. It's profiting those in power, he says. HTS is still seen as a terror group by Turkey and the West, even though it cut ties with al-Qaeda and rebranded itself as a more moderate group. A decade ago, Aleppo was a major battle site between al-Assad's government and rebel forces, a bloody civil war that had no formal end and which killed hundreds of thousands of Syrians and displaced millions. But in the past week, the insurgents led by HTS staged a whirlwind advance in the north of the country. They captured Aleppo last week and Hama this Thursday, which lies more than a third of the way between Aleppo and Damascus, Syria's capital in the south. The onslaught is President al-Assad's biggest challenge in years, and a devastating blow to him and his Russian and Iranian allies.